Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the MMA Cycles Weekly Market Update. This is Gianni DePocha, your host, and it's great, as always, to be with you on this wonderful Friday afternoon. So it was a very eventful week in the markets. We had a continued sell-off after CPI numbers for the month of June came in well above expectations. And this inflation piece of data came out right around the time that Venus formed a trine aspect to Saturn on the 13th. And then the next day, Venus formed a square aspect to Neptune on the 14th. So it shook markets across all sectors, currencies, bonds, and stocks. So let's go ahead and review what happened. I'll pull up my screen here. Starting off with looking at the Dow. So we see how even though we had a pretty good week last week, the decline continued, but here on Friday, a nice gap up, and we're back near the highs of the week. So this is a pretty good sign going into the weekend here, and we'll see if this momentum can carry over into the following week as we have Venus ingressing into the sign of Cancer on the 17th, and then Mercury will also go into the sign of Leo on the 19th of July, the same day that the Sun will form an opposition to the planet of Pluto. And then we will, of course, begin Leo season, peak summertime in the Northern Hemisphere on July 22nd. So stocks still have some issues technically, but we do note that the NASDAQ did have a decent week, at least compared to the other indices. We're starting to see some notable leadership from sectors like healthcare. So that's definitely something to keep an eye on, especially as we approach the Jupiter retrograde period that is set to begin on July 28th. And once Jupiter goes back into the sign of Pisces, we know that Pisces rules healthcare, and Jupiter does well in Pisces. So that could be an emerging theme in the next few months to definitely keep an eye on. That is healthcare outperforming, especially once Jupiter goes back into the sign of Pisces. But I also want to mention another thing about that Jupiter retrograde period, and it was actually brought up by an MMTA student, Rita Perea, and she mentioned that that is the day that the second quarter GDP numbers are set to be released, and we are technically only one negative quarter away from being in a recession. And so we have the yield curve inversion, but historically it takes about 19 to 21 months after a yield curve inversion before a recession begins, but we're really only one quarter away of negative growth before we are in a recession. So definitely something to keep an eye on, especially since the Fed is supposed to raise interest rates the day before on the 27th. So with Jupiter going retrograde, likely to be no shortage of exaggerations or drama, especially in the sign of Aries. But yeah, when it comes to the NASDAQ, healthcare is a very important sector to watch because it is a pretty big component of the index. And we can actually, I want healthcare, not silver. We can actually look at healthcare here, and it's been actually outperforming the broader market since the end of 2021. So definitely something we want to keep on our radar here. Now, another market that made some big moves was the US dollar, coming down a little bit here on Friday, but we see how the dollar index continued its rise to nearly 20-year highs. The euro fell down to reach par as capital continues to flee the Eurozone between, rates still being trapped at zero and threats of war. Capital is not really liking the euro currency right now, but could see a little bit of relief here in the short term. It seems like everyone has become bearish on the euro, and we note that this low that formed on the 14th occurred right as Venus squared Neptune. Venus rules currencies. Neptune rules inflation as well. So could that have been a peak inflation number in June? Keep in mind that CPI is a lagging piece of data. That is, it comes in afterwards, and commodity prices are down pretty significantly, 20 to 30% are pretty much across the board. So take a look at the Japanese yen too. Japanese yen rallied to a new multi-decade high as well, and pretty much going sideways here on Friday. So let's go ahead and look at crude oil, because crude oil did catch a little bit of a bid. It fell to a new multi-month low on the 14th, the same day that Venus squared Neptune, but closed little change on Thursday. Here on Friday, it is bidding up nicely. So we'll see if that leads to some sort of trend continuation, but it definitely is correcting, and this should bring down inflation numbers in the next couple months a little bit. So we'll see how the market reacts to that. I do want to take a quick look at precious metals. Gold tumbling down lower. So we'll definitely keep monitoring that situation. Would encourage you to check out the MMA cycles report that was just published this past week, where Ray gave his update on precious metals. That is his specialty market. Silver also tumbled to new multi-month lows as well. Checking in on crypto, and if you want to know how we are positioning ourselves in the crypto space, would encourage you to check out our daily cryptocurrency reports, MMA crypto report. Bitcoin and Ethereum both are still range bound. So basically consolidating within the downtrend, not all that much to update on that front. So that's all the time that we had for today. Thank you all for watching. Encourage you to check us out at www.mmacycles.com and also sign up for our free weekly forecast. It's a great complement to these videos. And next week, we're going to be joined by an excellent analyst and MMTA student, Matthew Kaiser from Paris. So definitely want to check that out. As Ray called him, he's kind of like the Dr. Copper. Him and Puyan Solfergarnia have both done some excellent work on that very important commodity metal market. So that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.